I don't know what chat room I just strode into. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Rand, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. The better question is, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing good, but I may have showed up for the wrong place. I thought this was the Entreprenudist web podcast.
Absolutely not. I
You
think
said
insurance companies just take your shirt off you, man. Are they beating you like that out there, Mark?
no, but you said we're going to bear all.
Absolutely, man. You took it literally, and I meant figuratively. And that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about, ambiguity in wording, right? Because that is one of the ways that I think policyholders get the benefit when the insurance companies draft the contract. If there's any ambiguity, that ambiguity benefits the non-drafting party, the insured.
That's true. That's true.
All right. So if you don't mind, man, tell the people who you are, what you do, and something that most people might not know about you.
All right, who I am, Mark Goldwich. I own a company called Gold Star Adjusters. As you know, we're public insurance adjusters. And so what we do is we help people who have property insurance claims. We represent them to their insurance company, make sure they don't lose their shirt, and make sure that they get paid everything that they're entitled to. Otherwise, they end up getting paid whatever the insurance company feels like paying them. And most people don't realize that it's just that simple. But whatever they feel like they'll do unless you know better. Something most people don't know about me. There's just too much. There's too much for that, Rand. But I love to travel. Have been to Asia a couple of times. Really enjoyed that, and so that might be something most people don't know about me.
So, would you say the public adjusting profession has allowed you more time to travel?
It has, but actually, I started traveling even before I got into public adjusting. So, in my prior life, I was, as you may know, I was an insurance adjuster for a very large insurance company. And, you get between 2 and 3 weeks off every year, and I would use that time to go and travel.
The favorite place you've been so far?
Probably Taiwan.
Taiwan.
Well, close, maybe tied with Israel. Israel was really interesting. Taiwan was really interesting.
Okay, nice. So you mentioned that you were in the insurance industry, working for the carrier prior to what you do now. What was your role when you was with the carrier?
It was always on the fire claim side, so meant not automobile, not life insurance. So I was a property adjuster and a manager and a supervisor. Had multiple roles from claim representative to re-inspector, to supervisor, team manager, catastrophe team manager. They just kept changing titles left and right.
Kept changing titles?
Yes.
So, all right. So the titles, were they changing because you were just that ambitious, or you would just get a email one day, say, hey, you got a new title?
It was a little bit of both. When I got on, it's funny, when I first interviewed for my basic claim rep job, the manager asked me, where do you want to be in 5 years? And of course I said, I want to be in your chair. I want to be doing what you're doing, not necessarily taking your job from you, but I want to be a manager. And she laughed, and she said it doesn't really work that way. It's usually at least 7 years before you get promoted to a supervisor position. And turns out it took me about 4.5 years, and I got promoted because I was ambitious and because I was willing to move somewhere that other people didn't want to move, which was Central Florida, and a very beautiful area. I don't know why people didn't want to move there, But I mean, I came in early, I worked late. Anytime they had a catastrophe assignment, I was willing to go. Other people weren't. And you know, I worked hard, I studied, you know, I ate it up, and I got rewarded for it because I was willing to do what other people weren't.
And the fact that you were willing to do what other people weren't, I'm assuming that gave you insight to a lot of different types of claims and a lot of different ways that those claims can reach a conclusion, be it favorable or unfavorable for either party.
Absolutely, because you know, when you're going on a catastrophe assignment, you're going from a situation where you're handling, you know, one claim or two claims a day in the in your regular office, to now you're at a catastrophe site, and you know, you might be inspecting up to 15 claims in a single day. And so just the sheer numbers of claims and the various situations may be just a little bit different from one to the other, but there's always something new. So when you're doing this time after time after time, you just come across, naturally, you come across all kinds of situations with all kinds of people, and just slight variations in the type of property, the type of building materials, just the nuances of the claim. So you get a much better experience.
Oh yeah, that old adage, practice makes perfect, I found really stands true in the handling of claims, because uh, the accessories of handling a claim changes based off the state laws and things of that nature, but the base, the steady handling of claims has not changed in a long time. And someone like you who's been doing it for a while, I can see how that can just stick with you. How many years were you with the carrier?
17 years.
17 years.
See, it took me a long time to see the light, and they were really good at, you know, there's really no other way to say it besides brainwashing. They were really good at conditioning or brainwashing their employees to, one, believe that you're doing the right thing, and two, that there's nowhere else that you're gonna do this well. And so yeah, it took me a long time to see the light and to leave, you know, a decent job with good benefits, and to strike out as an entrepreneur.
So when did the clouds part and you get the bright idea to become a public adjuster?
The clouds really parted in 2004. I had thought about it before then, but it was just too big of a leap. And in 2004, as you know, you had 4 hurricanes hit the state of Florida, one after another. And after the second one, I was thinking, is this the time? Is this the year? The third one hit. Oh, wow, I don't know if I can turn this away. This is really good. The fourth one hit, and my brother happened to know somebody in Pensacola where Hurricane Ivan hit in 2004. And that was it. That was just the sign that I couldn't, you know, refuse anymore, and gave my notice, and was told, you don't need 2 weeks. We can walk you out right now. And there you go. And so within about 2 weeks, I was in Pensacola working as a public adjuster.
Hey man, I learned that by watching, all right? Because, you know, I was also with the same company. I was with them over 7 years, right?
Yeah.
And I knew that if you decide your next chapter in your life has to do with insurance in any way, with any competitor or any aspect, you don't get 2 weeks. Oh yeah, nah, day one. So because I saw that happen, because what happens is, you know, people try to be strategic. When you want to leave a job in good standing, you want to give them 2 weeks, and you also set up everything to where you don't miss any checks in between. It's a surprise when you go to give them 2 weeks and they be like, nah, you out of here today. I learned that by watching. So when I left, I sent in my resignation in the middle of the night and I had my box packed and I walked out. I said, nobody ain't walking me out like no common criminal.
Yeah.
So how long was the transition for you from, because I know you said it was a lot of hurricanes, so I assume it was a lot of work. Did you just hit the ground running, or did you encounter some obstacles that you weren't aware of?
A little bit of both. So I hit the ground running because, as I said, my brother had a good friend of his on Pensacola Beach. He owned his home and he had 2 rental properties on the beach. He had a brother that owned a home and 1 rental property. And so right off the bat, I had several good-sized claims. I mean, the beach was devastated. And so I had several claims right off the bat. Worked through those, got a couple others along the way. But in shorter time, I thought it was going to be magic. I thought people were going to see my vehicle and just come up to me and there'd be a line of people waiting to sign me up. And it didn't happen that way, you know. So I found, pretty quickly it dropped off. And now I'm wondering, well, what am I going to do now? I'm in the middle of handling some good claims, but I don't have a full pipeline. I don't have a whole lot of work. And so I found a public adjuster who lived in the area, and I asked him if he had some overflow, and he interviewed me. And really, once he heard I was with this company for that length of time, he said, "You're in." And he gave me a bunch of files that were just too small for him to bother with, because they were only $100,000, $200,000 losses. And he was working on much bigger losses than that. He actually retired from that one hurricane. He made that much money.
And that is a good strategy that I think a lot of young public adjusters might not know about. What gave you the idea of approaching someone about overflow?
It was really just the need. I needed the work, and you know, the money didn't, you know, as you know, money doesn't come in overnight. There's a long tail to these claims, especially hurricane claims that are multiple 6-figure claims, and so, you know, before things got really bad, I had just figured out I got to find somebody who's got claims, and you know, that was what did it.
Oh yeah, no, those long tails are true, man, because people that's not in our industry, like friends or family members, you know, we tell them how, you know, we signed the claim, and I can literally say, yeah, that's going to be 6 figures about 2 years from now. Cause it's so even though you know it's in the bank, you still got to keep working. You still got to keep that pipeline full. Have you found, because I know you said that the guy, he gave you an opportunity, especially when he knew that you had been on the carrier side for so long. What do you feel, based off that experience, differentiates you from somebody who is also a public adjuster? They took the same exam. They just got licensed this year. They never really worked any claims, but they're going to go get it. What do you think differentiates you with your experience?
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, because I had 17 years of experience, I was already familiar with the claim process. I knew what the adjusters ate for lunch. You know, I knew what their thought process was. I had handled at that point, you know, hundreds of adjusters underneath me and millions of claims that I supervised the handling of. And so I was more fortunate than the average person who just says, I'm going to become a public adjuster. But I was still willing to find somebody to help me, to ask for help, to kind of be a mentor, and to be willing to pay him. I mean, he was like, sure, you know, you can have these files. I get 25% of them and you get 75%. And I was like, fine, whatever. That sounds fair to me. You know, and I just did it.
That's amazing. And speaking of that, thank you, because you are one of the people that when I first became a public adjuster, I would call you and you would pick up, you would text back, you would meet me for lunches. I would pick your brain. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have you always been like that, or was it something that you based off an experience, the way you said, anybody coming up under me, I'm going to give them insight and advice?
Yeah, even if they don't come up under me, but whoever it is, I'm going to help them. And part of that was because when I started, I actually had a friend of the family who was a public adjuster in South Florida, and his father was a public adjuster. I mean, this guy was really old school. I mean, he wasn't young. He was much older than me when I first got into this. And he was a good friend of the family. Not him and I so much, but other family members. He wouldn't help. He didn't have any time for me. This was a guy who had a established company. They only handled 6-figure plus cases on a regular basis. And didn't even want to show me his contract to see how a contract looks. And so, of course, I decided, you know, I'm not going to be that way when I'm in the business. And so, of course, it wasn't just him, but I found a lot of public adjusters treat all of their business as trade secret, you know, common stuff. And a lot of public adjusters are not very open about sharing information. It's gotten better with social media, but when I started, it just wasn't happening that much. There was not a lot of sharing. There was not a lot of welcoming. And so I didn't want to do it that way. And I tell people all the time, you know, whether you come on with me or not with me, you're in this state or another state, if you have a question, I'll answer it, whoever it is, and I do it all the time.
And this is actually the first industry that I came in, because usually I think a lot of people can relate to this. Usually whenever you get to a new job, the people who were there before you say, hey, it used to be better than this. You're right. It just got worse. It used to be so good, but now it just got worse, right? This was the first industry that I came in where everybody was saying, everybody used to keep secrets. Now it seems like all of the big players are sharing their knowledge. Since you were around for both sides of it, what have you seen that sharing of knowledge change?
I think it's making all of us better. You know, obviously you get a lot of different opinions when you post a question, right? Or a scenario. And there's always going to be those who, no matter what it is, they're going to knock you and they're going to say they got to, or they're going to knock anybody and say they do it better, right? But you get a lot of different viewpoints and you get them in real time, and then you get to pick and choose which you think are better. And of course, you get to learn who the people are who really know what they're talking about, and then who are the people who just bluster, right? So I think it's making all of us better when you can share knowledge in real time from multiple people with different experience levels, backgrounds, viewpoints, and everything else. It's good. I like it. It's making us better.
Absolutely. So another great thing about this industry is somebody can start out just one shingle, literally and figuratively. Somebody can start out with just one shingle and make it on their own, right? When did you go from solo practitioner to Gold Star adjusters?
Well, I went to Gold Star adjusters right from the start. I always looked at it as a company and not just me, Mark Goldwich, public adjuster. So, I mean, right from my very first contract was written under Gold Star adjusters, not under Mark Goldwich, public adjuster license number, you know. So it was always that way. But a couple of years into it, after the first couple of years, I got very lucky. 2004, we had the 4 hurricanes hit. I really only worked Hurricane Ivan in the Panhandle. 2005 was Katrina and Wilma, right? Those hit South Florida and Louisiana, but I didn't go to Louisiana. I went to South Florida, where I'm from, had a lot of work there. So between 2004, 2005, 2006, I was working claims between the Panhandle and South Florida, Miami, basically. And then in 2007, kind of landed back in Jacksonville when I was finished with those. And now I'm thinking, well, what now? There's no hurricanes hit Jacksonville ever, you know? And, you know, not a ton of people who knew what a public adjuster was. So the daily claims were kind of hard to find and to, you know, to get noticed on. But I got involved with the chamber. I, you know, did networking. I just ran around and, you know, hustled like an entrepreneur does when they're hungry. And soon after, I had somebody contact me who was a licensed life and health salesperson. And he said, "Can I work with you?" And I said, "Sure. We'll give it a try." And I brought him on, and then soon enough I had other people, and then I had a business coach who said, "Mark, you can divide to multiply. You want to get more people underneath you so that one day you're out of the business of working on claims and you're just working on your business. That's where you want to be." And so I started to be more active in trying to find adjusters to come and work for me. And so I've done it ever since. And since about 2007, I put on over 24, or brought on over 24 people into the industry. Now most of them aren't still with Gold Star, and some of them aren't public adjusters even. But I was willing to give anybody a chance that wanted a chance in the industry.
Mm-hmm. And I heard you mention a business coach. Was it one of those casual business coach relationships, or was it like a official, like you sought out a business coach and that's how it all came together?
Yeah, it was formal and not cheap. But it was just, to me, that was a part of doing business. Just like a lot of things. I mean, I know a lot of public adjusters who back then, they didn't even have websites. They didn't conduct their business as a business. They just found a contractor who would give them leads, or a couple of people who would give them leads, and they did business. They were sole proprietors and they did it all themselves. And I mean, to me, that just wasn't a business. It was a job that you owned yourself, but that's just not how I wanted to do it. And so I found a business coach, and I've been with one ever since. Not the same one, but I'm with another business coach now. But I think it's important. I mean, if Tiger Woods can need a business coach, and if Tom Brady can need a business coach, a coach, why not me?
Absolutely. Everybody, and one of the ways that I put it to some people is, you will see an athlete, a multimillionaire, a billionaire, even athlete, and they will get on the stage, on the MVP stage, and they will think, one of the first people they think is their coach. And you would think, all right, man, this guy is skilled, this guy is talented, this guy is built to succeed. But sometimes you need someone to watch you and observe you in order to help you adjust.
Right.
Agreed. All right. So what was some of the growing pains that you can recall of having people under you? Because initially it was just you, but you can give all the best advice. That don't mean that they're going to follow it.
Right.
What were some of the growing pains of learning how to deal with people under you?
Oh, well, definitely one growing pain was in Florida. They changed the process for getting into the business to where you had to become an apprentice to enter the business, for the most part, except for certain people who already had licenses and other things. So for the most part, if you wanted to be a public adjuster in Florida, you had to become an apprentice first. And the state created this program and they made it pretty difficult to do. And there were a lot of rules involved. And but I decided that that my model was going to be multiple adjusters, and so I brought on multiple apprentices. And unfortunately, I think this got me a little bit noticed from the Department of Financial Services. They were not expecting people to actually use the program that they created, because they intentionally, I think they wanted to make it so difficult that nobody would do it, and so risky that nobody would do it. And one of the ways they did that was to say, if you bring on an apprentice, you as the supervisor, you're liable for whatever mistakes they make.
Mm.
And if we're coming after the apprentice, we're automatically coming after you. And I had an adjuster make a mistake, and the department came after both of us. And when they come after you, they come after you hard if you're a public adjuster. If you're an insurance company adjuster, they don't notice so much, they don't see so much, they don't hear so much. But if you're a public adjuster, they come after you hard, and they mean business, and they were aiming to take both of our licenses. And because he was an apprentice, he just said, you know what, I'll give you my license for now, and in 2 years he was able to just get his public adjuster's license because he had finished his apprenticeship. But they were still coming after me, even though he gave up his license to not have to deal with the situation. I had to hire an attorney, and I had to defend myself and all of that kind of stuff. So that was kind of tough. And there was a time when I had, I think I had 17 adjusters working for me at once. Most of them were not really engaged. So that was a growing pain, having to deal with that many adjusters, a lot of which, no matter how much you tried to motivate them, they had other, means of income, and they just weren't applying themselves to the public adjusting part of it. And it was just frustrating.
Oh yeah, I mean, you really have to lock in because there are a lot of claims out there, and some people can just luck up. But once you get to handling claims on a regular basis, and like you said, you get on the radar of certain organizations, you really have to make sure that you're dotting all of your I's and crossing all of your T's, or as the carrier might do, cross their I's and dot their T's, right? So,
yeah.
Right.
Or just hire another lobbyist.
Another lobbyist. Shout out to all the lobbyists that are keeping all of these attorneys working so hard. All right, so Mark, what's something that a young public adjuster, what's something or some things that a young public adjuster should ask a new firm before they sign on to be a part of that organization?
It's a great question, because I talked to a lot of public adjusters and a lot of new public adjusters. And I find a common thread with the newer public adjusters, and that is that they signed on with the first firm that they ever talked to. And it just, more often than not, it turns out to be a mistake. I would say talk to multiple firms, interview the firm. They're not interviewing you. You should be interviewing the firm, because, I mean, you're putting your career with them. Now they're kind of doing the same with you, but they already know what they're doing. You've got to be sure that the firm you're with is going to have the time to support you, that they're going to be giving you a fair split. I hear of firms splitting off 10 and 20% to new adjusters. And to me, that's terrible. It's a bad deal, especially when you're not getting a lot of support. You want to see what kind of systems they use. Do they use Xactimate? Do they have an estimator? If you're not comfortable at writing your own estimates, or if you're not even comfortable climbing your own roofs or crawling under your own homes, that they have an estimator, or at least they have someone that they can refer you to do those things, or to help you, or to show you things like that. You need to be able to, you need a support system, maybe a company that's got systems in place, phone system, claim management system, estimating system, system of handling claims, just a process, a set process for how to handle claims, so that when you have questions, they can give it to you. Heck, they can give it to you before you even need to come to them. I mean, I've got a whole manual and a whole bunch of what we call workflows that guide you step by step through pretty much any process that you come across. And as we find more, we just create another workflow, so that we don't have to answer every single question. We can say, well, you know, look through the workflows and find the one that meets the situation. And then if you still have a question, you know, you come and ask. Now, most of them, they just come and ask before they bother to do their little homework, but you know, that's what happens.
And that is one of the things that I hear from public adjusters who started with a firm, that they don't feel like they're learning a lot. And, you know, and they're bringing claims. It's one thing if, I think if claims were just falling in your lap, then you would, all right, I'm putting claims in your lap. You got to do something. I'm gonna help you when you need it, but also use your own ambition and will. But if you're also bringing the claims, and you're not learning, it seems like like you say, and you're getting a low split. It seems like it can be a bad deal all the way around. But different strokes for different folks. Everybody has their own business model, and we are in a business where we expect people to read and abide by their contracts. So public adjusters out there, definitely wish you well, but read your contracts, ask the right questions, and if anything, this is just going to be your first lesson in contracts.
Right. You definitely read. I mean, yeah, you want to get a copy of the contract before you're signing it, and really you want to ask all of your questions even before that. But yeah, don't feel like you have to sign with the very first firm that you talk to. There's all kinds of firms out there, and in today's virtual world, I mean, hello, I mean, we're doing it right now. You don't have to be sitting next to each other. You know, you can get on the phone, you can get on Zoom, you can communicate in multiple different ways now that we didn't have when I was getting into this, and you can get help. I mean, you could be at the house, you know, on FaceTime or whatever, and showing me live what you're looking at, and I can help you out on the spot. So yeah, just make sure that you're getting with a firm that's going to be willing to support you and assist you, so that you all make money together.
You're a published author.
2-time.
And what's the name of your books?
We got Uncovered. That's the first. That I wrote only about a year into this, into public adjusting. I was telling war stories to a friend, and like most people, she had never heard of this public adjusting business, but she was just amazed and in disbelief at what the insurance companies would do to not fully pay a claim or to deny it altogether. And we're just talking over dinner. She says, "You got to write a book." I'm like, "Write a book? You know, I'm a public adjuster. I'm not an author. I don't even like to read books very much. I'm not writing. No, that's not my thing." She goes, "No, don't worry. I've written 3 books already. You can do it. I'll hook you up with my ghostwriter. All you got to do is talk and talk and talk and talk." And so I did that. I put it on cassette tapes. As I'm driving to Pensacola, I'm dictating for 5 hours, and I send him the tape, and tape after tape after tape, and he wrote and he did the book. And then in the book, basically, the first book, Uncovered, it basically explains the strategies and the tactics that the insurance companies use to pay the claim low or not pay it at all. And that's what that's about. And it's a lot of real stories of real claims. And again, it's from somebody who's been on both sides of it. And it's very conversational. It's not a textbook. It's just stories that people can relate to, right? And so, and then after my bout with the Department of Insurance, I started this book, Exposed, several years ago, probably 6 or 7 years ago, and finally finished it earlier this year. And Exposed is kind of more about the industry and how they use their influence and power to get done what they want done at a higher level than, you know, the exclusions that they use and those kind of things, the day-to-day tactics. So the Expose is the bigger picture stuff. And again, it does go back to the lobbyists and all the way to things like helping judges get elected so that they can rule on cases in their favor. I mean, this is the stuff that goes on. Most people just couldn't even believe it.
And you say the first book, was it Uncovered?
Yes, Uncovered.
And the second book, was it Exposed?
Exposed.
So did you intentionally make them 2 different words, but kind of meaning the same?
Yes, it's going to be, so it's the whole series is going to be like that. It's going to be, they'll be synonymous, right? Because to me, all of these things are revealing, right? Are things that most people don't know anything about. They don't know this is happening, and it's happening to them all the time, and it's happening, you know, right under their nose and those kind of things. And it's just a simple matter of letting people know what's happening.
So have you ever tracked your referrals to that book? How often do you track new clients or groups of clients from the publications of your book?
Not really. One in particular, I remember a lady had a flood claim, and she invited me to her house, and she told me, she says, I'm interviewing you and one other public adjuster in the area. And after I interview you both, I'll decide who I'm going to hire. And so I went out there, and at that time, Uncovered had been published. And so I took it with me and I gave it to her, as I do a lot of times, especially on larger losses. And that impressed her so much. And she told me, I was so impressed that you had written a book that's what caused me to hire you instead of the other person. And the claim was it was over $100,000 flood loss, and I think we got her over $80,000 from what she was initially offered. So it was a significant claim, and it came from the book or because of the book, and I got. And she was really nice. She did a video. She created a video testimonial for me that I still use to this day.
And that's like a life hack, man. That's almost adding that published author in front of your name, published author. It's almost the equivalent of having doctors sometimes, depending on the whatever rooms you're in, right? That is something that for example, someone like you that has so many stories, people should consider that, be it writing it yourself or finding a ghostwriter. I know some people, what they might do is they might line up about, because you did it the best way. You had somebody refer you directly. But I know some people, they might line up about 3 or 4 different ghostwriters, and they'll send them the same recording, and then and they'll pay those ghostwriters to do those little segments, and once they get back, based off of which ghostwriter sounds like they're really giving their voice, that's who they go with.
That's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that. I got lucky in that the first one, he captured me pretty well, to the point where I had people who read the book and said, Mark, it was not like reading a book. I could hear your voice. People who knew me, they would say, it's like you just talking to me. It's almost like an audio book that I'm reading, but I'm hearing your voice. So he captured it pretty well. And unfortunately, he had lots of personal issues and couldn't do the second one. He started the second one, and then I had to get it finished up, which is why it took 7 years to do the second book. I had multiple other people try to piece it together. So it really does make a big difference who you get to help you with the book.
And I actually want to thank you as well for releasing your book. I called you about this, and so I had a client hire me to do an insurance appraisal, right? So they already paid. I'm already on site. It's the day of the inspection, and she tells me, she says, "Hey, I didn't even know insurance appraisal existed. I didn't even know public adjusting existed. I knew nothing about this." But then I was almost about to give up. But then my neighbor told me what insurance companies do. And the reason why she knows what they do is because she read a book, and the book that she read and she pulled out exposed, right? And she said, you were talking about insurance appraisals in your book. And once she read your words, she felt confident, because whenever I do insurance appraisals, I request my fee up front. I'm very confident in what I do. I make no guarantees, but I do what I do. And in order for me to do what I do, I need to feel confident that my bank account looks the way it's supposed to look, right? So she already paid me and everything. And then she said, and she said the main reason she hired me was because of this book. I remember your words when I told you this. It wasn't congratulations. It wasn't, I'm glad she loved the book. It was, I should have put in the book that I do insurance appraisals too.
Right. So instead of calling me, she calls somebody else.
Hey, she calls one of your mentees, man. You got to feel good about it, right?
Yeah, no, I do. But that's kind of the way it is. People, they think they might think I'm an author, but that I'm not actually doing it. So she doesn't call me to do it. She just thinks I wrote the book and told you about it, or told her about it. But no, glad it worked out for you. And it's a cool story.
So I'm trying to think of what's an. I'm a wordsmith too, and I'm mad that I couldn't just think of it off the spot. But in your next book, I'm pretty sure you're probably going to get a little deeper into the weeds, so people see that Mark Goldwich isn't just an author. Matter of fact, you're not just a president; you're a client.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'll let you know that I don't just talk about it; I actually do it.
And speaking of talking about it, I also know that because, like you say, it's not that many public adjusters in Jacksonville, but you're one of the more known people who put their face out there. You're on the morning shows and things of that nature. What made you decide to start doing that? Did it just happen, or did you purposely set out to become the face of public adjusting, seemingly in Jacksonville?
It was, it was business. I mean, I thought that's how business was done. I thought when you start a business that you go to the Chamber of Commerce and you become a member. And now I hear people now say, "What's the Chamber of Commerce?" And they don't know what it is. And but I'm older school, and again, I got lucky, and I had people who would kind of coach me along and say, call the morning show. They need stuff to put on the air. Have you ever watched the morning news and see the segments that they do? These people are starving to put information out there on TV. You can get on TV, you'll get recognized, the phone will ring. And I gotta say, I've been on the news after one of the close hurricanes, Matthew, or it might have been Matthew. I think I was on the news like 5 times in 6 days. And I thought that was great. But I'm waiting for the phone to ring as a result of me being on the news, and it's not happening. But but that's okay, because I could use the clips from me being on, and I can put it on social media, or I could put it on the website, and I could use it another way. But I thought you can't just say to your prospect that you're an authority. You've got to be able to back it up in some way. So writing the books helps back up that I'm authority. Being on the news helps me back up that I'm an authority on the subject. And I was just looking for any way that I could to get noticed, to get attention, so that people would realize that we exist. Because as you know, this profession is one that 90+% of the population, they have no idea that the industry exists, let alone your company. Most companies are struggling to differentiate themselves from other companies. Well, none of that helps if the people don't know that the job exists, that the industry exists. That's the struggle that we have. And I was just determined to change that.
Absolutely. And you have been doing your part, and you're all over the internet, all over TV, and all over books. Is there any last thing that you would like to share with the Entreprenudist audience, which is primarily entrepreneurs, business owners, and very ambitious people climbing corporate ladders?
Something I would. So along the way, I actually created a nonprofit that I started. It's called Veterans Claim Victory. And it came about because I wanted to do something that would benefit veterans. And I had never served, and I had kind of always regretted not serving my country, right? I have multiple family members that have served, including my father, my brother. I have a brother that's a police officer. So initially it was going to be for veterans. I knew I wanted to do something for veterans. And then I said, well, what am I going to be able to do? All I know in my life is claims. I mean, I've been doing claims for 34 years. This is what I know. So I said, well, I'll tie the two together. And so I created this nonprofit, that helps veterans and first responders transition to civilian life in the insurance claim arena. It doesn't have to be as a public adjuster, and it doesn't have to be with Gold Star. It can be a catastrophe adjuster for an insurance company or for an independent adjusting firm, or it can be an estimator, anything, you know, a drone pilot doing drone footage of disaster sites, anything that's insurance claims related and is going to benefit military and first responders. And I added first responders because my brother is a retired police officer, and one of my adjusters here is a retired firefighter from Jacksonville. And so I wanted to include first responders as well. So if you've got some folks or some friends who are looking to donate to a 501c3 nonprofit, part of it is also as a tax shelter, or they just want to do something good for folks who've done a lot for the country. Veteransclaimvictory.org is the website, and folks can help us out, because we can't do anything without donations. It's how all charities work. You know, the goal is to do good. I don't get any money from it. I just give money to it. But for us to do good for folks who have done good, you know, we need contributions.
Nice. And I know you say you help the veterans and first responders transition to whatever field in the insurance industry they desire. How exactly does your organization do that? Like, what are some of the things that y'all do with the donations?
Well, first we have to raise awareness. So we have to let these folks that are retiring or coming off of work in the military or as first responders, because a lot of times, you know, especially if they get in early, they're done and they're 50 years old, 35 years old even, and they're retiring. So we have to raise awareness that it's an option for them to get into this field, because as you know, most people have no idea that the field exists, and you know, they're not thinking about it. And not all of these folks have college degrees, and this is, as you know, this is a job that doesn't require a college degree, but they have training and real world experience that makes them very well able to handle this kind of work and this line of work. So I just thought it was a good fit, and I think it's just a good way to transition them. We have to raise awareness, and then after we raise awareness, we can educate them on the options and the opportunities, and then sometimes, you know, help them with the training, the courses, the certifications, those kind of things. Maybe the legal guidelines, the rules, the statutory requirements, and those kind of things, and get them prepared, and then maybe do job placement for them, and then help them, you know, with coaching or guidance, you know, along the way to help them to succeed. And not just about showing them the door, but once they get through there, you got to help them along the way and make sure that they don't just make it through the door, but that they thrive and they succeed.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, does that mean a veteran comes to your nonprofit organization and what the cost of the licenses are covered, or?
Could be.
Okay, got it. Depending on what it is.
It kind of depends on the donations that we're able to get. Obviously, the more that we can get, the more that we can do. And we're in the infancy. It actually started in 2020. And as you know, not a great year for starting something new like this, you know, but at the beginning of the year, we didn't know COVID was coming and all of this. So was not a great year. You know, a lot of people are pretty strapped as it is. A lot of people have a sense of uncertainty. And so, you know, hopefully 21 will be a better year for doing this.
Perfect. So first things first, people have to donate. And then once they donate, you're going to be able to use those funds to help veterans and first responders transition into this beautiful industry of insurance and financial services. Mark Goldwich of Gold Star Adjusters, thank you so much for coming on the Entreprenudist podcast. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope you keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you. Thank you, Rand. I appreciate the opportunity. And I'm sorry I'm a little underdressed, but I really thought this was the Entreprenudist bear all website or podcast. So.
Ambiguity, man, ambiguity. That we bear all, but we bear it via speech and not via clothing, sir.
I'm just glad I didn't do this standing up.
All right, Mark Goldwich, thank you so much for coming on the Entreprenudist podcast.
All right, take care.